something on the mainstream news here in Canada inspired me to Google around for a political activist whom I knew in Toronto more than 20 years ago. And she is today over 80 years old. In this interview, she was reflecting on an event more than 20 years ago. She said proudly, we had more than 500 people show up for that event. And I remember it because I was one of those 500. I only had one personal private conversation with her. At that event, she was on stage. She was at a podium. It was a formal political event. But she recognized me. I can't say Toronto is a small town, but the number of people who care about local democracy, who are engaged with politics on that level, she recognized me, like, oh yeah, you're a guy I've seen at a few of these events. And yeah, at the time I didn't think of myself as good looking. I really didn't. But I was a lot better looking than I was a tall, handsome, striking young man in a context dominated by the doddering, elderly, obese marijuana addicts of the left. Still to this day, I show up at events. As old and ugly as I am now, with gray hairs in my beard, this is still a factor in my life. The extent to which people judge me on the basis of appearances. Anyway, this woman was reflecting in an interview. Now she's over 80 years old. I'm not going to Google around to figure out the exact timeline. But you could really see that this one event, attended by over 500 people, had changed the direction and meaning of her life. And I'd ask you to reflect, in your own autobiography, how different would anything be today if, let's say 25 years ago, you organized one political event that was attended by 500 people? Just be honest, in my memory, I don't actually remember there being 500 people. Was it only 200? I could actually Google around and find out how many seats were in that room. I remember where it was. Maybe this tale has grown in the telling over 25 years, but let's use the number 500 because that's the number she used. Like so many of us who care about politics, in the 25 years since, her life, her activism has been increasingly online. It's been dominated by the internet. It's been generated for the internet. I think before that, a lot of what she did was on local radio, community radio. She's over 80. She's lived through several different, chapters of this thing we call planet Earth. Chapters of the history of the planet. She had a YouTube channel, and her recent uploads, let's say from the last year, 5 views, 2 views, 11 views, 4 views. Most of these videos, they were single digits, So you think about the trajectory of her life. You think about the sacrifices. You think about the commitments. And you think about the rewards that she was expecting. The rewards she felt she'd earned. And the position she's in today. To what extent has she lived her whole life trying to recapture that feeling in the pursuit of an aesthetic, trying to find a substitute for the success she once had, whether that was in the 1960s or the 1980s or around the year 2001, the last time I saw her in person. It could have been even earlier than that. It could have been 99, 2000. It doesn't matter. It's not worth Googling around to pin down exactly what that was. The lecture she gave on stage was in many ways amorphous and aimless, and it seemed sincere. And what I learned from it, what I took away from it, I really took this seriously. She said, back in the 1980s, she had been with a group of radical feminists, and none of them wanted to admit that they were lesbians. Like pretty much everyone in this group of radical feminists, they were either lesbian or bisexual of some kind, and that was exactly why they were engaged with these issues and why they cared so much about these issues. And she said, like, nobody ever discussed it. Nobody ever had a strategy or a plan. Like, nobody even thought, like, why are we all lying, guys? Like, it wasn't like they had a meeting and said, okay, this is our strategy. Whenever we give interviews, whenever we publish anything. I had one friend in Toronto, and her mother was broadly part of the same set. Her mother was a lawyer. She had a list of accomplishments, but this woman, as a lawyer, had fought cases basically for gay rights, basically for the rights of lesbians, specifically. Anyway, this friend of mine, she said of her mother, she said of that generation of feminists in Toronto, like their attitude was, I am not the poor. I help the poor. Like, I'm someone who helps homeless people. That doesn't mean I'm homeless myself. That doesn't mean I have the experience of being homeless myself. For some reason, like it was important to their ego to pretend that they were not in any way lesbian or bisexual themselves. Anyway, so I went to this event in Toronto, allegedly attended by 500 people. And this woman was saying, I mean, it felt real. It felt authentic. She said, look, looking back at her own life and what she did with it, there's this major source of regret that she chose to live a lie. And she was with a group of women who cared passionately about politics and devoted all this time and energy to this movement. But like, ultimately, the movement had to disintegrate because it was built on this lie. Everyone involved in this movement is lying about what they're doing and why. They're even living, each one of them is living a kind of double life. Some of them were married. Some of them had what they used to call it, a lilac marriage, a purple marriage. There was something different. They even have fake marriages to kind of to carry this on. There was a lesson in that for me, and part of the spirit of season 1 on this YouTube channel, I think actually reflected that, where it's like, no. I'm not going to wear a mask. I'm not going to live a lie. I'm committed to keep it real in all these ways, including even, my own personal sexuality, even if that's part of my personal tragedy, so be it. I am not wearing a mask. I'm not living a lie. But thinking about it today, I come to a different conclusion, putting a different moral of the story. I think when we are young, we experience desire very directly. When we're young, we have unsophisticated animal instincts. And the older you get, I really mean the wiser you get. And not everyone, as they get older, gets wiser. You become so intellectually sophisticated that you only experience desire very indirectly and as like a kind of philosophically complex concept. I met this woman here. She had a body like Freely the Banana Girl without the fake tits. Just use a cultural reference everyone in my audience will understand. This was a blonde woman in very good shape, and she was showing off her midriff. That part of her body was very impressive. From the midriff on down, you might say. I did not feel attracted to her at all. I was not interested in her at all. And like as I got to know her, she only confirmed my kind of negative first impression. I thought she was a terrible person. Intellectually, ethically, morally. And yeah, I mean, like, should I say aesthetically? Like, we're talking about how you feel and what you perceive to be beautiful and what you perceive to be intelligent, what you understand. And then we came to this moment in the conversation in which she revealed the list of languages she had studied and how close she had gotten to fluency with each of them. I was like, now I'm interested. And even aesthetically, now I feel attracted to you. And yeah, I already know all these things, like, morally about this woman. What a terrible, terrible person she is. Like, now I'm willing to compromise. Look, I've had time to reflect on this because I had a spinal injury. And this spinal injury made it difficult to walk, but made it impossible to sit down. I could not sit down in a chair like this. So I'm lying out flat, and then when I'm in the kitchen eating, I'm standing upright in the kitchen. You can't sit. Really tough course of recovery. Okay, I had this spinal injury. I have a lot of time to reflect. Why did it shake me up so much? Meeting this like objectively beautiful young woman who could tell other aspects of the story. But why did this shake me up? Because it really put me in the position of asking, to what extent am I still looking for the same kind of woman I was looking for before I met my first wife, and for the same reasons? And to what extent am I the same man? Right. The political activist I described in Toronto, I really think she spent the last 25 years trying to recapture the energy and excitement and momentum that she had, or that she thought she had, when she organized that one event attended by 500 people. Again, people in my audience come from different walks of life. But whether you're talking about an event attended by 500 vegans, it's about the future of veganism as a movement, or 500 polyglots, that's about the future of language education, that little bit of success, I think you can see how that could lead to a life of imitation, in which you're not even really aware of what it is you're imitating anymore. A life in which you're always looking for a substitute for what it was that had succeeded before. But more specifically, it's the aesthetic of substitution I'm concerned with here. What you perceive to be beautiful, what you perceive to be meaningful, what you perceive to be rewarding, right? That gets shaped by this earlier experience. I say a lot of foul shit about Cambodia, okay? Even all the way real. If you're a friend of mine in person, IRL, you've heard me say, oh, Cambodia, I never want to go back to Cambodia. I'm never going to make those mistakes again. I reflect on my own fallibility and foolishness for why I got involved with Cambodian politics and history and humanitarian work, and why I ever committed so much time to studying the Cambodian language. And I will ruefully reflect that I made the decision to study Chinese in many ways because I was searching for another Cambodia. China as a sort of substitute for what Cambodia had been before. All the bad things I can say about Cambodia, yeah, but you know what? The study of Cambodian history and politics was something tremendously meaningful and rewarding for me. And I think I've spent decades searching for a substitute, looking for another Cambodia. And what I realized during the period of time with the spinal injury was many of the languages I've been looking at learning recently, each and every one of them is a new Cambodia, another Cambodia. Whether you're talking about Russia or Hungary, or even Spanish, although I can't quite say Spain, because Spanish is one of those languages that, wraps around the whole of the world. But, even Greek, whether talking about, both with my first wife and with Melissa, who we could now refer to as my second wife if we want to. We were never legally married, but still, in both of those relationships, the study of modern Greek was seriously discussed as an option. Melissa and I went to Greece together. But my interest in Greece was in the extent to which it could be, for me, subjectively, another Cambodia. Like modern Greek and modern Greece, I wasn't interested in it despite the fact that it was a disaster. It was precisely because of the extent to which it's a disaster. I've been looking for like one post-communist disaster after another again and again and again. I've been stuck in a cycle of seeking out substitutes. And again, my perception of the world has been warped by the aesthetics of substitution. Now, when you're young and unsophisticated, It's easy to desire things directly. And as you become more sophisticated and more wise, right, it can be harder to set aside the way in which past experience has shaped you and has shaped even your perception of the way things are here and now. So the woman I said looks like Freely. Wonder if she'd be insulted or flattered to hear me say that about her. It's not a bad description, honestly. I remind you, I've met Freely in real life. I have. I've laid eyes on her, and we've laid eyes on each other. We didn't say a word. one of many of my fellow YouTubers in that category. Yeah, I've now met Maddie Limburner, another member one. She saw me and she recognized me. Neither one of us said a word. But anyway, look, the woman I said looked like Freely. Why does it have to be so complicated? Why can't you just feel desire directly? And why can't you admit to yourself that you want this woman or you don't? Because what I want is more complicated than that. What I want is a meaningful life. And the possibility of working on a language together with a woman, whether she's studying that language with me, like as equals, or she's really in the position to be my teacher, my tutor, my professor. She's more advanced than me, and I'm her pupil. It completely changes the relationship dynamic. It completely changes the outlook for the future of the relationship. And I'm not really thinking about this woman physically. I'm thinking about the role she could play positively in my life and that person 5 years from now in the future that I could become. Working with her instead of working alone. Problem is, it's very easy for me to get into a mindset of not being able to discern what it is I want, what it is I desire, what it is I need. Not being able to distinguish these things from merely what I have become accustomed to. There is more than one way to lead a meaningful life, and seeking out one humanitarian disaster after another to replace Cambodia is not the only way, and even in my own opinion, not the best way. And yet that's what I'm doing. Okay? There's more than one way to have a wonderful relationship, wonderful marriage. Okay? My relationship with my first wife was a disaster. It hurt me, it traumatized me, it broke me down and ruined me and did damage to me in innumerable ways. But nevertheless, just in the same sense that Cambodia demonstrated for me a way in which I could lead a meaningful, wonderful, rewarding life, my relationship with my first wife provided a model for how a marriage that includes studying languages together, studying history together, studying politics together, a marriage could give you this rich, wonderful, meaningful, rewarding life. So I meet this girl who looks like Freely. I think she's a terrible person, totally write her off, totally dismiss her. And then she tells me just a few things about her, and I'm shocked because I'm being put back in that position that I was in decades ago when I was looking for a woman along those lines who could live that kind of life with me. So what now? What next? During this period of the spinal injury, I figured out that I have to stop trying to find the next Cambodia, and obviously I have to stop feeling as if I need women to study these languages with me. Okay, so here's that word need again. If you're going to work on modern Chinese as a language, you need people to work with you. They don't have to be in love with you. They don't have to sleep with you. But you really do need people to cooperate with you, to practice with you, to work with you, to work on a language like modern Chinese. Ancient Latin, you can do alone. This book is actually in ancient Greek. I don't want to grab another book. Okay. But look, it's true for both ancient Latin and ancient Greek. You can work on these languages alone. You don't need to live with your language tutor. You don't need to be in love with someone who speaks it and practices it with you. Okay? And again, look, whether or not you really need that other person to work on modern Chinese, that's how I perceive it. That's how I feel about it. Right? And the pursuit of one area of study after another to be another Cambodia, the next Cambodia, for me. If I worked on Russian, it would be another Cambodia. If I worked on Hungarian, it would be another Cambodia. Like in so many of these cases, I can see clearly that my own interest, even Spain, like even Madrid, Spain, without getting into other Spanish-speaking countries that are more obviously disaster areas, like I can see in the way in which my own research interest is relating to and connecting to Spain exactly as this kind of study of dystopia, political disaster. The two languages that interest me most right now are modern Finnish and ancient Latin, precisely because they would allow me to escape from this cycle. I'd be able to approach Finnish instead, examining Finland today from the perspective that, Finland is not a disaster. Finland is not a dystopia. Finland is not Cambodia. Finland is paradise, but paradise is not enough. Finland is utopia, but it's a utopia despised by and dissatisfactory to its own inhabitants. And obviously, the study of ancient Rome, the study of ancient Greece, with or without those ancient languages, right? This is, for me, at least not repeating that same mistake. For me, it's a way out of Cambodia. Now, I've always warned people to be aware of the extent to which studying any new language is a form of escapism. If I now choose to study Chinese, again, to go back to studying Chinese, right? That's a way for me to avoid dealing with Canadian history, Canadian politics, because now I can deal with Chinese history and Chinese politics, right? But of course, it's only here in Canada that I can participate in politics, that I can change the outcomes, that I can make a difference. If I'm studying politics in Beijing, like right now, 21st century politics, I might as well be studying ancient Athens or ancient Rome, right? Like, maybe I learn something from it, whether it's Beijing, Athens, or Rome, right? Maybe I benefit, and maybe that's enough. But I can't change the world. I can't even change a little piece of it by engaging with those politics. And again, it sets me up, it puts me in this situation in which I need other people. Because unlike sitting down to paint a picture, learning and practicing the art of painting, right? Practicing a language like Chinese, it's really something you can't do alone. So yeah, I've come to this point of being very skeptical about whether or not I can really perceive what I need, what I want, or what I desire at all. Because I have been living my life trapped in a cycle of aesthetic substitution.